But at 18 years old, I committed a large crime. I actually hurt somebody that I really cared about and was charged with 2 felonies. And so at 18 years old, I thought my life was over. The fast story short is I literally went from jail to Georgia to Deloitte, which I think now is the largest financial consulting and public accounting firm in the world, in 3 years.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 75 of the Andrew Deitch podcast. 75. That is a huge milestone. 75 feels so huge to me. I can't thank all of you enough for being so supportive along this journey. We'll be at 100 before you know it. I have a lot of amazing plans in store that I'll be able to reveal soon, but I can give you a hint that it has to do with making money, which is exciting. One thing that's been holding me back is the fact that I've, dedicated countless hours to this project without, direct compensation, and that is finally paying off in a big, big way. I'm super excited to share what's in store in the coming weeks. But hey, if this is your first time joining us here, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me that you decided to stop by here and give it a listen. I know there's literally a million other things you could be listening to right now. But the fact that my voice is bouncing around your eardrums makes me pumped, man. That's exciting. But anyways, this show is all about having the most meaningful and raw, unfiltered conversations in person with the most fascinating people that I know. And I just love the idea of being able to sit down in the same space with somebody and get really deep. No distractions, no phones, no interruptions, and just talk about life, business, spirituality, fitness, traveling, you name it. Let's talk about it. No subjects off topic. There's no wrong answers. And again, if this is your first time here, I want you to know that today you're in for a treat, because my guest today is the one and only Tommy Breedlove. This dude's the real deal. Let me tell you, when you're in the same room as Tommy, you can just feel his energy. He's got that amazing energy. And Tommy's mission in life is to help individuals, leaders, and organizations increase their positive impact on the world, while at the same time gaining meaning and attaining financial success. And he's doing that with the Choose Goodness movement. And during this episode, Tommy shared his kind of rags to riches story of how he went from a prison to a lucrative international financial consulting career. But at the age of 36, he'd achieved massive financial success and prestige. But basically, he felt totally unfulfilled. He had lost all meaning and hope in his life. And he made the decision to walk away at the top of his professional career to start the Choose Goodness movement. And his dream is to use his vast personal and professional experiences, both the tragedies and the triumphs, to help individuals, leaders, and businesses discover their brilliance, achieve meaning, and ensure financial success. And Tommy and I met up at his home in downtown Atlanta to talk about his story, how to create meaning in your own life. And he shared some of his crazy stories, like when he spent 4 days alone in the forest with no food. That might go down as one of the best stories from the podcast. But also this episode is super powerful, majorly inspiring. So please do me a favor and welcome my friend, Tommy Breedlove. All right, Tommy Breedlove, we're live.
Hey, man.
Did I pronounce it right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I feel like
it's a real name too.
I was gonna ask you. I was like, is that a stage name or is that a real name? That's a pretty awesome last name, man.
So I'm 43 years old, brother, and in 41 years, no one ever asked me if it was my real name.
Really?
I guess because of the shift in my profession and what I do.
Yeah.
Probably 5 times a month, people are like, is that truly your real name? Or am I like, I wish I could be cool like Beyonce. Or
just Tommy.
Yeah, it's just Tommy. There you go.
Tommy Love.
T. Yeah, T Love. There you go. Actually, in a former life, I had T-Bone, T-Love. I'm trying to think of some of the nicknames, but Breedlove's real, man. It's my real name. I was born with it.
That's cool, man. Well, it sounds like you're breeding love, man.
Yeah, man.
That's great. That's
I'm
really
trying.
cool. That's really cool. Well, dude, right before we started recording, you're saying that your whole platform is based on transparency, which I love, man, because I think that's the only way that we can actually connect with people. That's one of the biggest reasons why I love doing podcasts in person rather than over Skype. You lose some of that element,
Totally.
And you just get to get a better sense. So I think it would be awesome if you can kind of just share your story and kind of just walk us through first tell us who you are and what you do right now, and then kind of take us back, I guess, so that people can kind of hear the journey.
So who I am and what I do now are one and the same. So that's super important for me. From a guy who felt like he always had to wear all kinds of armor and masks his whole life, can't show weakness guy, tough guy, cool guy, blah. And so who I am is I'm a guy that's literally seeking, and I'll never get there, but I'm really super excited to work at it every day, is self-mastery and control over my thoughts. That's who I am, man. And then what I do is related to that. I spend a significant amount of time doing public speaking, but also I'm a professional mentor, usually for men. It's usually an entrepreneur, an executive, or a leader, or someone who has reached a level of success and realizes that there's more to life than the stuff, the title, the prestige. They're lacking meaning, they're lacking significance in their life, they're lacking fulfillment, they're compromising. It could be certain small things, it could be certain huge things. So I help people from an accountability standpoint, from achieving meaning standpoint, to really help them work in their zone of brilliance, but also doing all that. I'm a guy that believes you can have it all in life. And so my goal, because I spend 2 hours a day working on that for me. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a sage on the stage, I'm just a dude who works it. And so that's what I do. But I also still do, because of my former life, and we'll get into that in a second, I also do some corporate consulting to where I help companies kind of blend humanity and profitability. So I help them with their innovation, culture, if their people are leaving. So I do that kind of stuff too. So, but it's a calling in life. I founded the Choose Goodness movement, and so it's all of that is underneath the Choose Goodness movement. So it's just been pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So there's a whole lot more to who I am. That's an interesting question, right? We all have got we got our scars, we got our tragedies, we got our wounds, we got our stories, right?
Exactly. And that was one of my biggest inspirations for making the podcast, is because I believe there's always something to learn from everybody, no matter who you are, what there's something to learn, even if it's learning what not to do, Like, I never want to be like that guy.
Hey, but I can do that for you today. Seriously.
But I believe that there's something to learn from everybody, and we tend to look at people just in a snapshot. Like, I can look at Tommy right now, and I see this guy who's created massive success. He's a public speaker. He's doing all kinds of awesome stuff. But of course, as you'll tell us, that always wasn't the case. And so I know that sharing your story is kind of a big part of what you do and everything, being transparent and all that. But I think, like I said, that was kind of one of the biggest inspirations for starting this podcast. So, take us back.
Oh, of course.
And yeah.
So I'll take you back. I'll give you the short edited version of my story. I grew up in the south side of Atlanta, near the airport, Clayton County, Georgia. That's where the airport sits. And a lot of people have been to the airport in Atlanta. And so that's the area that I was raised in. Good, solid, blue-collar part of town. No member of my family ever went to college. I was the first one to graduate college. My mom and dad were really committed to get me through that. But it was kind of a tough neighborhood to grow up in for me. I was the youngest boy in an all-boy neighborhood. And so, not to get too deep into that, I was severely bullied inside and out of the home. And so that, both emotionally, physically, sexually, it was just a tough childhood. So I never felt this sense of safety. And the worst thing that happened, because the reason I share that now is because the consequences of that for me were I became what I hated. So at 17 and 18 years old, the guy that was bullied and tortured as a kid became that bully. And then when I was 18 years old, just graduated high school, I was not only did I make a mistake, but I was leading a life that could have had severe consequences. You know, there was gunplay, there was all these other things. I had so many different lives even back then. I had my normal friends, then I had my tough guy friends, and then I tried to be a normal kid, like with my girlfriend and stuff. But at 18 years old, I committed a large crime. I actually hurt somebody that I really cared about and was charged with 2 felonies.
Wow.
And so at 18 years old, I thought my life was over. And I'm not one of those guys that say I deserved I was on that path, and I'll talk about it in a second. When you get to jail, everybody's innocent. I was not that guy. Just FYI, I was completely guilty. And deservingly so, but by the grace of God and some luck and some fortune, those 2 felonies were dropped to misdemeanors. But I was sentenced to, 2 years through the misdemeanors, and spent my 19th year incarcerated. I didn't spend that much. I didn't spend 2 years in prison. I can't remember how much it was, but it was probably around 6 months. Let's just say that. I can't remember.
But 6 months is 6 months.
It's a long time, man. Especially being a skinny white kid in South Atlanta. You know, I thought I was this wolf, tough guy, cool guy kid. Again, I had various groups of friends, but one group was a bunch of tough kids, right? And then you realize you're really a lamb. I was one of the youngest guys when I got there. But some of the most amazing things happened to me there, and I don't want to go too far into this, but one of the people that took me under their wings was a 40-year-old African-American, very big dude, former gangbanger. And I guess he saw something in me, and this friendship was formed. And so he became one of the first mentors in my life. And so he really helped me. And a lot of people were telling me how it becomes a revolving circle. Once you go into the system, you never come out.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, and they were hell-bent determined for me not to do that. And so after,
who's they?
So there was him and his group, some sheriff's deputies, some friends, not really my family, but my friends were kind of like, hey man, I see something more in you. There's something there.
That's really cool.
And I didn't see anything in myself back then, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw nothing, like no hope and whatnot. But I was scared straight because I knew I didn't want to do that because that place is a tough environment. And so got out, went and worked in a nuclear waste container factory in downtown Atlanta. I kid you not. Making $6 an hour. And at that time, I was so poor that I would have to literally pawn my car to get my car fixed, to get to the factory so I wouldn't lose my job and violate my probation. It was a crazy life. But I also, at the same time,
So in order to not violate your probation, you have to prove that you're going to work.
Have to go to work, have to show up to the probation office and all this. And that's so that those misdemeanors you don't have to go back to jail, and also to show that you can be a productive member of society.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you have no money.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, it's really hard. And so I had to pawn my car a few times to eat and to get it fixed and to do other things and to find, it was an interesting time in my life. But I also put myself in school at night in a community college, which is now a state college down in South Atlanta. And eventually I ended up at the University of Georgia through some fortune, through my father showing up one day and saying, hey, why don't you get out of this? Was living in kind of a bad place, working a no-end job and going to school at night. And he saw that I was really trying. And he's like, well, why don't you apply to the University of Georgia? And that could have been like, go to Harvard. I was like, what is that, And so I did, and I got in. And so the fast story short is I literally went from jail to Georgia to Deloitte, which I think now is the largest financial consulting and public accounting firm in the world.
Pretty prestigious.
In 3 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy. 3 years, man. And this was still a kid who, but
and you were like 21, something like that?
Probably 21, 22.
Wow.
I was 21 when I got to Georgia.
Wow.
And so that I know because I could go have a beer.
Yeah. That's a pretty big milestone.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
23, 24 gets a little muddy, but 21 you remember.
21 I remember. But I was the guy who plugged into everything at Georgia. Anything I could get in a business fraternity or outside groups or honor societies. I did really good at school. Really, really good. And so because I had a gift of intelligence, I had a gift of charisma, and those came from my family. But I was also driven because I knew I didn't want to go back to the factory, and I knew I didn't want to go back to jail or back to the neighborhood, candidly. And so I was recruited out there to Deloitte. Now I'll fast forward and we'll get from there. But what I never dealt with was all that stuff that we all have stories, right? I didn't deal with any of that. And so now I'm chasing the American dream of title, prestige, money, and stuff. Fast forward to I'm 36 years old. I'm a junior partner / principal at a very large CPA, financial consulting, mergers and acquisitions firm in Atlanta. And I turn around and it's just this wake of destruction, man. My marriage was crumbling. I had all the external stuff, the watch, the car, the title, the big office. I'm on top of the world, making great money, and I was completely unfulfilled, unhappy, and I was self-destructing. And I was compromising my values, I was compromising my dignity. And so if there's a list of 100 things not to do in life, at that time, I was checking off 90 of them, man. I'm not kidding. I was the Mad Men meets the Wolf of Wall Street.
I was going to say.
meets this kid from South Atlanta who just never really believed in himself. And so it was just
kind of crazy because you said you never believed in yourself, but yet you had
this drive.
You had this drive, and then maybe, in other people's eyes that you had kind of made it. Like you said, you got to this principal spot, you had it all, but you said you still didn't really believe in yourself. Or...
Felt unworthy, didn't feel like I ever belonged, insecure. And that's a great point, because if a young person out of school or someone, looking to make their way into the world would have looked at me, I had the suit, had the watch, the title, speaking at all these things, sitting in boardrooms. I mean, I was the young partner. I was on the fast track, brother. But really what it was a bunch of armor and masks. The tough guy, can't show weakness, important guy, can't ask for help. I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to out-tough you. I got to be the coolest guy in the room. And all that it was arrogance. It's just a massive form of insecurity, man. Mm-hmm. And I was unconsciously and consciously, I believe, trying to kill myself. Wow. Seriously, dude, that's how bad it was. And so at 30,
was it? You said you were checking off 90 things. Was it? I'm assuming like drugs, alcohol.
You name it, man. Yeah. There wasn't. If there's the only vice that I can't check off is gambling.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, if there's a vice, but work was one of them. Yeah. I mean, they were all just because I didn't want to feel. Right,
and to numb yourself.
Yeah, to numb myself, and to put all this armor and candidly, I'd forgotten most of my childhood. So at 36 years old, man, I set out over a New Year's. I can't remember if it was 1 day, 3 days, 4 days, but it was just this. I went out seeking to hopefully have someone take my life, not me do it myself. It was crazy.
Wow.
From drugs to alcohol to chaos to putting myself. There's dark places in every city, and I knew them well, and I was one of the club, and they let me in. And so I sought out to just destroy myself, because I felt like I wasn't good enough. It didn't matter, and I at that time, what I was trying to do, and if I put it together, I was trying to get my wife to leave me, my friends to hate me, my job to fire me, because I never dealt with those insecurities and worthiness issues, and I felt like a fraud, a charlatan.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that
was
a huge turn in my life, man.
I think a lot of times too, what kind of keeps people going is, my wife, or, all this kind of stuff. But you were saying, you just kind of wanted it all to crumble around you.
Deep down inside, I felt like I wasn't good enough.
Wow.
That's the truth, man.
Wow.
That's a dark place to be.
Very.
Because there's certain things, we all have our stories and we all have our tragedies. There's certain things that get down in your soul and DNA level that takes a lot of work to get out. And we all of us have stories, and we all have insecurities. We all have, our society bears them down on us, right? Mm-hmm. But it's how you deal with them, how you move with them, how do you work with them. And I didn't have any tools then to deal with it. And I thought I had made the American dream, and it ended up being a disaster, so.
Yeah. And another thing that I was going to say is it's kind of this cliche thing, but, a lot of times when you go to therapy and stuff like that, they're always talking about your childhood, but it's true if you don't deal with that stuff. And, a lot of people, like you said, you kind of forgot most of your childhood, but I'm sure a lot of that was still kind of lingering.
Oh, yeah.
It is very interesting.
The fear was lingering for sure.
Yeah.
Just the being scared.
Yeah.
Always being scared.
Did you have at that point when you said you weren't trying to get your friends to leave you and your wife to leave you and all this stuff, did you have any people coming around you, or friends or anything like that were like, dude, what's up? Or
no.
Everyone?
No, because I had, just like I did in my childhood, I had these different groups of friends. I wore a certain mask around my professional friends and wife and family. I had this other group of friends, and I had the dark friends. And so I can't speak for them. They probably saw that I wasn't happy in a lot of different ways, and I was this arrogant, egomaniac guy that's completely full of shit. But I always was kind of the life of the party too. So that, I had that going for me. I always had charisma, which was good.
Like Wolf of Wall Street, like you said.
Yeah, totally, man. But, here's the truth. If you're feeling a lot of insecurity, a lot of anger, a lot of envy, a lot of jealousy, a lot of fear, a lot of judgment, you surround yourself with people just like that. Like my friends, my mentors, my coaches, my inner circle now is a bunch of people who are just kicking ass in life. I mean, they've got it running on all cylinders because I attract that into my life now. But back then, darkness finds darkness, man.
Yep.
And you surround yourself with people who are just like you. And it's hard. I can see it now. I was unconscious back then.
Yeah, because if you reverse engineer it, it makes total sense.
Total. But when you're in it, you're in it and you don't know it, right?
Yeah.
And so I just woke up after that debacle, and I don't know, and I don't want to get too out there. I don't know if it was that little boy back in the day who just felt scared and alone, or God, or some divine force, or that last glimmer of hope in my molecules. But everything and I was in a horrible spot when I woke up. Is like, you got to get up and live, man. And so
was it like a specific moment, or was it like
was
a
that
couple
when
days?
I woke up from that whatever thing I went out to do that was unsuccessful. And so I just decided at that point to re-engineer, rebuild, start over, really find out who I am, what I stand for, what I believe in, and really go on this journey of goodness, for lack of a better word, where I can find emotional balance, mental balance, physical balance, and spirituality balance. And I don't mean religion, man. I'm talking about what brings us all together on this earth as humans, as trees. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, blue, ocean, or fish. There's a universal force and intelligence out there that brings us all together. And I think that's also important to really tap into that, whatever that means to you. It could mean religion to certain people.
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge but I believe it's important. And for me, and this is another belief, I think you've got to have all cylinders firing, and you never will, but you got to be working on them all and serve yourself to really serve your family, serve your friends, serve your loved ones, and ultimately your business. And that's what I'm all about now. But let me tell you what happened to me professionally.
Yeah.
When I changed, and no one really knew all that stuff till recently. That's why transparency is so cool. Professionally, now personally, oh my God, the changes that have happened have been insane. But professionally, during that time, I went from principal, junior partner, to senior partner, to international practice leader, to equity holder, to elected to the board of directors of a large financial firm at 39 years old. Just by working on my mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and being the human, the person, the man that all of us were meant to be. And so that's why I'm so passionate. I do that, and this is why I do what I do for a living. I spend 2 hours a day working on me. If we can walk around here at my house, and so we can walk around and see the books, we can see the affirmations, you can see the meditations, you can see the journaling, and there's all these tools that I have in my toolbox to be the human I want to be, to work on myself, so that and then I can go out and serve, whether it's a company, whether it's a man, whether it's a speaking engagement, or have this conversation with you, man. And so this is life or death for me. And that's why I'm so fucking passionate about it, seriously.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about this stuff.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I like what you said about having all those tools, because I think removing all the roadblocks to, like you said, meditation, affirmations, removing all those roadblocks to make it not a chore to do those types of things.
Totally.
Just having them out in the open, being able to, and getting in a routine of doing that kind of stuff just makes total sense. And
I've got so many now. I switch it up all the time. Always switching it up. But I also,
that's important too.
And I don't, for anyone listening, here would be my highest recommendation. We'll invest in our friends, We'll invest in our stock market. We'll invest in our jobs. We'll invest, but we put ourselves on the back burners. And so I spend a significant amount, and it sounds like it's, I don't know the right word. It's selfish, but it's not. I go to like 2 or 3 conferences a year that put me out of my comfort zone, that help me grow.
As an attendee, you're saying?
What's that?
As an attendee, you're saying?
As
like
an attendee, not
like,
where I'm running it or facilitate it, which is what I do for a living, right?
Yeah.
I just facilitated a men's retreat up in North Georgia, but I have to constantly sharpen the pencil, get new tools, put myself out there, because I'm, like you said, I'm always learning. I don't care who I'm with. I'm always learning something from them. And so I'm constantly either doing something externally or internally, and I'm involved in several mastermind groups. And so, yeah, dude, it's not just about me helping others. I've got to walk this walk, man. I mean, I've got to do this for me, because the bigger it gets, the more successful it gets, the more I get out there. I'm telling you, I don't know if it's clouds, I don't know if it's gatekeepers, demons, whatever. Those voices will come up. You're not good enough. Why you? You're a fraud. No one's going to care what you think. You're not, you're not Tony Robbins. You're not Warren Buffett. You're not Beyonce, and the key is to separate yourself from that and see that and just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
They still come though, man. I would be lying to you about that. So
that's awesome, man. I'm glad that you're able to be honest about that, because I mean, I think everyone at some capacity suffers from that, like, imposter syndrome, where they think that they're not good enough or they're not worthy enough. But what do you do to, like, silence those voices? I know you're saying you have those 2 hours where you work on yourself, but is there anything, when those voices creep up, is there any, like, one thing that you can reliably do to kind of quiet those or anything like that?
Yeah, so there's several things, and it's this is the easiest thing. Let me start with the easiest. Once you start investing in yourself, especially your emotional and mental well-being, and really dive into getting rid of some of that, you'll never get rid of it, to mitigate some of that stuff. The easiest thing that I do is I call my inner circle and say, man, these things are loud. Like, I had a big speech I had to give recently to a lot of people that I really cared about. You ever want to put yourself out there? Invite all your friends and family and trusted inner circle, and then just give a speech. But the more I got closer to it, I almost got into a fetal position. I mean, it was coming in huge. And so I would constantly call, and they're equipped with tools to help me walk through it. That's the easiest thing to do. But also, I'm a huge meditation guy. And I do like 5 or 6 different types of meditation. But one of them is, and this is a lot of work, it's like going to the gym. You got to build it.
Exactly.
And then you got to practice it. Otherwise, it just goes away. But I've got tools now to where I can separate myself from my feelings, my emotions, and my thoughts, and I can just watch them.
That's amazing.
Literally watch them. You become the watcher. And that's actually the true you. Because your brain is constantly in a state of planning or remembering. But then you've got the emotions of whether it's happiness or insecurity or fear. And then we're constantly thinking about the next thing. And you can just see all that.
Yeah.
And when you see it and just recognize it for what it is, it's not you, it's just thoughts.
Yeah.
You eventually come back and it gets really quiet, and that is a powerful place to be.
Yeah.
I did that right before you got here, by the way.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I was doing before you got here, so yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah.
But it's a practice. It's not easy. Change is fucking hard. It takes a lot of courage, man.
For sure. For sure.
It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, dude, I love what you said about being able to watch your thoughts like that.
Yeah.
Like being able to, because I've heard it being called the monkey mind.
Oh, totally.
Just the chatter in the background.
Yeah. And I call it the Tommy go round.
The Tommy go round. I like that. But I like what you said about you're either in a state of planning or remembering. I had never thought of it like that, but you're totally right. Rarely are we in the present moment. You hear that a lot, like, oh, be present. But like, what does that mean? And that's cool. I liked how you said we're in a constant state of planning or remembering. That's really...
Always.
Yeah, because that makes total sense. Because one thing that I've been doing recently is a lot of yoga. So yoga's like been huge for that for me.
Massive.
Yeah.
That's an awesome tool, by the way.
Yeah, and I never expected that I'd be into it as much as I am. Like, I'm excited for my yoga class later today.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like so stoked because I know that I'm going to feel awesome afterwards.
It puts everything in one, and I'm not going to go into the history of yoga, but you know this. But you really are tapping into a higher presence, and it can be whatever you believe in. Mm-hmm. You're also tapping into the physical body.
Yep.
And quietness, and you're working on your mental, your emotions, and eventually everything melts away. You know, when you first start the practice, you're probably thinking about, damn, I got to get this or that or this or that, and then eventually it just melts.
Yep.
That's why yoga is so powerful. And some of the biggest, baddest dudes I knew in my former life, man, yoga freaks. They love yoga. So I think that's a huge tool in anybody's toolbox.
Yeah.
But taking it with you when you leave. You got to practice this stuff where you're at. You know, it's like when you go to these seminars, you get so amped, you know, whoever you're into. And then, but the key to this is the practice. It's just like in meditation's exercise for your mind and soul. If you stop doing it, it's like your muscles will atrophy if you stop running or doing yoga or going to the gym. Yeah. All this stuff is important.
Yeah. But just like going to the gym, there's all different types of exercises.
Totally.
And you said there's all different types of meditations that you do. That's one thing that I've been trying to get more into as well as meditation. Some people do meditation when they wake up, some people do when they go to sleep, some people do in the middle of the day. What are those, not to get like super deep into meditation, but just so people know, like, what do you use those different types for, and how do you do them?
Yeah, so the easiest one that I believe that there's some really simple guided ones out there that kind of instruct you as you go. Because what'll happen to you when you initially start and you'll get frustrated. The key is not to judge yourself and to get mad at yourself because you can't get quiet. Because you called it the monkey brain, I call it the Tommy go round. When you get quiet, it's seconds to where you don't even realize you're doing it. You're thinking, you're planning, you're thinking about what you watched last night, you're going to the next thing, you're remembering. But there's guided meditations that help you, whether it be a mantra, which is a word or two, or breathing. They kind of walk you and they let you go 10 or 15 seconds, and then they come back and you realize, oh, damn it, I was somewhere else. And it slowly builds you into getting present, and it slowly builds you in, and then you can build on top of that. I actually did a 6-week through Emory University here in Atlanta. They've combined with the monks, the Dalai Lama. My dog is jumping on. For the audience, my dog who barked at him is now loving on him. But I did a 6-week course called Compassion-Based Cognitive Training. It's basically meditation. But it's through the Dalai Lama and his Tibetan monks and Emory Medical School.
Wow.
And so that's kind of the next level. But it helps you build. There's chanting, which some people think that's way too out there for them. I love it. There's just silence, and that's when you get really good. But I would recommend the guided or the mantra meditations at first. And again, it is about, here's the biggest benefit. It gets you proactive and not reactive. When someone pisses you off or cuts you off in traffic or says something that hurts you, or an email comes through, or your friend who's having a bad day says something to you, you can pause, you can be present with it, you don't react to it, you breathe, you see them for who you are, and then you kind of watch your emotions for a second, and then you just let it go. It's brilliant. It changes your life, man.
Yeah.
The effects that it has in professional lives too is amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
I can
companies hire me to come teach them meditation.
Yeah.
But you can't teach meditation in a day, but they got to take it with them. And they got to practice it. And let me tell you some good, easy things to do. I'll tell you one more.
Yeah.
If you can get in a place of gratitude, appreciative, thankful for what you have, literally when you get up, the next time you get up and go to the restroom or you go to get a glass of water, every step you take, just say thank you. Just simply say thank you. It can be for anything. We take so much for granted, the breath in our lungs, the eyesight that we have, the fact that our heart's beating, the fact that you and I can look outside and there's a blue sky, or the fact that we live in America and I have a dog sitting next to us. But you don't have to even get that specific. You can just say thank you, thank you. All of that stuff, if you do that for like a minute as you walk wherever you're walking to, and you just get there with it, a lot of melt away, man. That's an easy one too. So I've got a lot of tools.
I like that where you said you tie it to like going to get some water, going to the bathroom.
Totally.
Because that's something that you can like marry that to.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing that. I like that.
Big meeting, say you're interviewing, or you're getting ready to go present something at work, or there's something big getting ready to happen for you, or you're getting ready to be reviewed.
Yeah,
that's always wonderful, isn't it? Let me tell you, you do 2 good things and 25 things wrong. But it really helps if you're just breathing deeply and saying thank you for like a minute before you go into that, or answer that email, or go into something, or just in life. It'll change your perspective. Gratitude and meditation, to me, are the biggest tools that you can ever have. Absolutely.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, totally, man.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So just to go back to your story a little bit. So you started, like you said, you started incorporating all these things into your professional life, and it basically just took you on,
nuts.
just rocketed you all the way to kind of the top.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you call your movement again?
Choose goodness.
Choose goodness.
Yeah, totally, man.
I love it. So what kind of, and now your business has kind of evolved more, and you're doing more public speaking and all that stuff. So how did that transition kind of happen?
Yes, I'll start with when I made it to I reached the mountaintop of that particular industry. I'm at the board of directors. I'm a senior partner.
At the top of Everest.
Top of Everest, dude. And the money was just going to go higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
But within the first board meeting, I had this shit. I knew I had to leave. And there was something deep down in my guts telling me, this isn't the industry for you. This isn't the firm for you. And these are not your people. They are my people, but in this capacity for this profession is not my people.
Everest is a good analogy. That you can't live up there.
Shit. Now I got to go back down.
Yep.
But out of fear, it took me another 2 years and a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring. I invested in coaches because I was scared. I was scared I was going to go live under a bridge. That money, that scarcity mentality kicks in. And so, but Choose Goodness was initially founded when I had that transformative moment when I was like, I wanted to live instead of wanted to self-destruct. And it was literally just born as something I would ask myself in my decision and choices. In this particular moment, at this particular time, and it was for bigger choices at first, and now it's with every single thing that I do. Have I chose goodness for myself, someone close to me, my community, or my planet? And that's as simple as it started. And it's become a movement of education. It's become a movement of innovation, of human innovation, of business innovation, of blending emotional stability, mental stability, spiritual stability with your professional aspect of really training, teaching companies, individuals, and humans to be the best person they can be and whatever goodness means to them. But eventually, and I'm actually within the next year and a half looking for someone to run the movement because I don't want it to be about me and the other people involved in it. I want it to be bigger and live in perpetuity. I also want it to have an accelerator part to it, an investment part to it, a philanthropic part to it, but also the coaching and educational components that it has. So I'm really looking for someone to take that. My calling in life is to get out there and tell this story. Hopefully people will dig it, give them hope, and to run workshops, to work with 5 to 10 guys at a time because I need to really plug into them. And sometimes I have to rebuild the person, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just help them with big choices. I'm not fulfilled here. I've made it here. What's the next step? Why do I feel all this pressure? Why do I feel like I can't leave? And so I help people with giant choices in their life or giant change, both of which I really help people with courage and accountability if you want to know the truth of what I do, because I do that for myself and have an army behind that doing for me. And so eventually I did leave. I formed the Choose Goodness movement. Did a lot of corporate work when I first left, but now it's just it's a way of living, it's a way of breathing. It's just, I want the movement itself to be something much bigger than Tommy Breedlove. But a lot of these guys, I'm writing a book right now. There's going to be several books come after that. Actually, the next 2 days, I'm going to be with my writer and me working on that. But all of these, these people are saying, tell your story, write a book, get out there and spread this word because this is needed in this world.
For sure.
The key for me, man, you want transparency, is I got to fucking believe it because that noise still kicks in, Yep. You're putting yourself out there. I have to show up on naked on the stage, not literally, but you feel naked.
Yep.
I got to breathe it and step into it and put it out there, man.
Exactly. My friend Ryan, for the past like 5 or 6 years, he's been like a style coach, style YouTuber kind of guy. He has like 600 videos, 30,000 subscribers on YouTube, all this stuff.
Awesome.
He does like style. That was like his thing. And he had a conference like last weekend I went to in Florida, and one of the biggest things that stuck with me that he talked about was he called it a living sales letter, where, because a lot of people, they have this like sales letter on their page where, and then at the end there's like a buy now button. But now we live in this transparent age where you got to know the person who's selling you the thing before you buy it.
Totally.
And so you got to be this living sales letter, where if Ryan dressed like a slob but was preaching all this, he had like 27 looks that make her want to date you or whatever, all these kind of things like that.
Yeah.
And if he dressed like an idiot and looked stupid and he was fat and a slob, people wouldn't want to take his advice. But he's an attractive dude. He dresses really well. He's got an awesome girlfriend, all this stuff. So people, they want to take his advice. And I feel like that's, like what you're saying, with you got to live it every day, because you got to show up naked on the stage.
Totally. And you got to walk the walk. It can't be bullshit. It's important. It's just important that you are what you stand for. And so, it's a big deal. And so, kudos to that. And I think my world is all about trust. And I think, again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm just a guy that walks the walk with them. And I can come from, because I've made so many mistakes and hurt a lot of people and myself in my life. And that looks a lot of different ways for a lot of different people, but I can stand next to them and say, yeah, I've been there, and here's what I did, and let's get through this together, without judgment, without throwing rocks at them. You know what I'm saying? Because I've lived it. And so I think that trust building process is huge. I think, and transparency is huge too.
That makes a lot of sense. I don't know are you familiar with Jordan Peterson?
No.
So he's this dude who's been kind of popped in the news. Dr. Jordan Peterson. He's a clinical psychologist in Canada, and he's a professor. And he originally kind of came onto the scene because he was talking about the whole gender pronouns drama, this whole political correctness stuff, and he came out saying he wasn't gonna, conform to all that. Anyways, but he recently has just blown up because he talks about a lot of the similar stuff that you're talking about, especially with helping men, especially find meaning. Yep. And because one thing that I was listening to him recently, he was talking about everyone wants to retire and then just go live on a beach or something like that, and it's like that's not real. That's not real happiness.
No,
because you can drink a margarita on the beach for how many days can you do that and stay consistent? He said really what you should be looking for is a life of meaning and purpose, and finding your zone of genius, finding that thing that is, I lost my train of thought, but finding your responsibilities, living a life of meaning rather than living a life of living your highest truth. And I know that's something that you talk about a lot. So how do people tap into that? How do people find their highest truth? And rather than seeking a life of quote unquote happiness, like you said, searching for the cars, the things, the house, the wife, and how do they actually tap into meaning and all that?
Well, I think some of those things help, but they can't be the goal. You know what I'm saying? Money certainly helps you to live a lifestyle and make memories that not having money. And so
there's a threshold.
Yeah, totally. And for a guy who spent 20 something years in large financial consulting firms, it's not, but the most interesting thing that's happened, my guys typically were 30 to 49, that kind of age, that I've started doing well, but shit, I don't know, I'm still miserable or meaning. I love my family, I love my wife, and I like my job, but I'm missing something.
Like I thought I made it, but I'm still missing.
Two retirees have reached out to me recently.
Wow.
And they did really well. One was 65 and one was 69.
Wow.
And they said what you said, I've retired, but they lack that fulfillment. It becomes like a reverse thing for them because they found meaning through work or task or the groups they were involved in. And when all that goes away, all of that, oh my God, and what do I do next? And they lose meaning quickly. And so the retirement on the beach is not sustainable, but purpose has to come through. Purpose is a lot of things. Again, I think it has to fulfill you. There's Simon Sinek's 3 circles that he does for start with the why. I think there's a 4 circle that he's actually missing, but I love his work. I think it's a matter, you call it zone of genius, and that's a Gay Hendricks term from a book called The Big Leap. That's that he came up with that, and that's genius, by the way.
That's his zone of genius.
Yeah, that's one of probably my top 5 book of all time.
Wow.
The Big Leap. Yeah, it's funny and it's good. But I think it's a combination of, it's got to be internal. So believe it or not, your family and friends are half internal, half external, and you can't control their emotions and their things. So that's not going to totally fulfill you, but it's important to have those people and to live in your truth with them. I think even if your retirement, what you do for a living, because you spend so much of your time doing that, maybe your highest percentage of life is going to be in your employment. And so really not only working in your God-given talents, but doing something you truly love that benefits yourself and society, that's one way too. So I think it's a matter of doing something you love. And one of the exercises that I do, that I take my guys through and people through, is whether it's a corporate meeting and find soul in their business and what they actually stand for, or individually, it's a process. It can sometimes takes a day. Sometimes, like my buddy that I just talked to the other day, it took him 6 months, because you have to take a deep dive, a real deep dive, mentally, emotionally, and really figuring out and it changes. It can change throughout your lifetime. You know, what you stand for now might not be what you stand for at 40. So
definitely,
it's a process. I could give you the tools, but it's going to take some time. It usually requires other people with you to help you through that, and it takes a village. And so someone who's actually seeking fulfillment or seeking to change or trying to make a big decision, I would encourage them to A, be careful who they surround themselves with, and B, invest in themselves, whether it's books, seminars, a one-on-one coach. I think a one-on-one coach is critical. I actually have 2 right now. I constantly have coaches in my life. Just to help you hold accountable and to help you find whatever your light is. That's what I would recommend.
That's awesome.
Because it's not an easy process.
Yeah.
And it never ends.
Yeah.
This journey of happiness and hope and courage and being present, it never ends. But it's better than the being pissed off, being scared, judging people, and envious. Those are the killers, man. And if you feel like you have that in your life as a norm, it's time to double down and invest in yourself. I mean, really double down and invest in yourself. And that's time, money, commitment, and energy. And that's why having someone else help you through that process is the key.
That's awesome.
Or a friend who's done it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Take you on the fast track.
Yeah, a friend who's done it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, one thing that I was listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast recently, and I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week, all that stuff.
I know Tim well.
Yeah, and he...
I don't know him well. I know his work well.
You feel like you know him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because he takes... he's trained. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, he's awesome. And he just hit the 10th anniversary. I wouldn't mind a little bit more coffee
of course,
as well.
brother.
Hit the 10th anniversary of 4-Hour Work Week. And one thing that he was talking to his friend on his podcast about that, and he said the one chapter that he wishes he could elaborate more, stress more, was the chapter called Filling the Void, which is, kind of what do you do once you do achieve this quote unquote 4-hour work week, where you have more time freedom, more money freedom, and you've created a passive money making machine. Then what do you do with your actual time then?
Right.
And he said that was the one chapter that he felt like he needed to stress more, that it was mandatory reading, because he said probably a lot of people are kind of like, I'm just going to skip this chapter because I don't even think I'll ever get to that point anyways. Let's just try to do the steps, and then once I get there, I'll try to figure it out. But he said you gotta be figuring it out along the way, or else you're just going to be lost once you get there.
I think you said something huge there, though. And this is truth. If you don't believe, and I mean this, because this is a guy who didn't believe, who was insecure. Why me? And we all have it to certain degrees. Some of us have it more than others. If you don't believe you were going to be successful, or you don't believe you can be happy, you're fucked. However, there is hope. That was probably the wrong thing to say. That sounded like really dogmatic and mean. you don't have a chance of being successful. You don't have a chance of, whether it's financial success, internal success, or happiness, worthiness. I was that person. So let me be clear. I don't mean you're fucked, but it can lead to severe consequences.
If nothing changes,
if nothing changes.
Gotcha.
That's when you get, if you in something deep down inside you is constantly saying, these voices are hounding you that you can't believe that you can be happy, you can't believe that you can get out of whatever situation you're in, and you can't believe that there's something better in life. Trust me, I was you. But there is hope, and there is a lot of tools, systems, processes, and it takes time, it takes courage, and it takes movement. You can get out of that. But if you skip that chapter because you don't think you're ever going to get there, that's when you need to read that chapter 4 times. Mm-hmm. Seriously, 4 times. And there's books that you can, and tools and affirmations and writings. I've got them all because I do them for myself, so that, and what happens over time is your energy, your cells, your emotions, your mental, it shifts. And you'll start believing 9 out of 10 times. You'll probably never get to 10 out of 10. I don't even know if, like, the top of the top, even Taylor Swift probably has. I mean, she's a mega star now. There's going to be those moments she has of, oh shit.
For sure.
But no, it's a journaling, and no, you can get out of that. Mm-hmm. But I do believe, especially around money and success, if you don't believe you're worthy of a lot of money, even if you make a lot of money, you're going to lose it. That's huge. I've seen it. Yeah,
it's kind of like a lottery winner.
Yeah.
They come into a lot of money and they don't have they're not in that headspace, and so it's gone in a matter of years or months or whatever.
Totally, man. Totally. It's an energy too. And so actually, you're seeing the regret from me right now. You're definitely not fucked, but there's no chance unless you start taking action to change those emotions and to change those thoughts. And it does take a system, it does take time, it does take action, it takes courage.
Yeah. So where do you start? Because there are those guys out there. Yeah. I think a lot of people listening to this are young people. I know my audience is probably, just based on my analytics, is about 60% male, somewhere in their 20s, maybe early 30s as well. So maybe a lot of people listening to this haven't gotten to that point where, like, that Everest moment, and then they realize, like, I'm not even fulfilled. It's probably a lot of guys that are kind of at the bottom trying to get to that top point.
Yeah.
What kind of, advice, or, a lot of people, maybe they're still seeking that point, but also at the same time, they're not feeling fulfilled, and they think it's because they haven't gotten the car or the watch or the job or the wife or whatever.
It's not going to get him there. There's nothing wrong with having a goal of owning a Maserati.
Of course not.
Nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with owning a Maserati. Mm-mm. Got 5 friends who own them, and they love that damn car. I got friends who own bigger cars. I got friends who could care less about ever owning a car. They just want to camp. Mm-hmm. It's whatever your thing is.
Exactly. You got to define it for yourself.
I spend a significant amount of time, because of my financial background, being a judge and a advisor and mentor for a lot of entrepreneurs. And I would say the people you just described, I think the 20 to young 30 generation is more entrepreneurial driven. I think the knowledge is there. I think the opportunity is there. I think the desire to be different is there. And so I spend a lot of time speaking to that age group a lot. I was just at Georgia in front of 450 people in the entrepreneurial program.
That's awesome.
Talk about not just the professional stuff, but the emotional and mental. Here's what I would say to them. Be careful of trying to find your self-worth through what you do. That's only a piece of your worth. And what you do is super important. So if you're trying to build a company, or you're starting out at a job, or you're trying to find a job, that's only going to fulfill you and it's going to protect you financially, put food over your head, make you self-sustainable. You can get away probably from your parents. But if you're here's the things to be on the lookout for to really find that fulfillment. And if you're asking yourself this question in your 20s, first of all, say thank you, because that means you're aware and that you want to do something different. Don't wait till you're 36 and have your second meltdown in life, But so many entrepreneurs, and I don't want to speak to entrepreneurs, but so many young people that I talk or mentor, they just work those 12 hours and 14-hour days trying to find that financial goal or build that empire of a company or get that promotion. And when they get there, trust me, there's just going to be the next thing and the next thing and the next carrot. And so be on the lookout for that, watch that. And if that's you, and chances are that's 8 out of 10 of us, really double down into why do you feel like that's going to fulfill you, and really start looking at, and here's some keys to look at your emotional and mental state. How often do you feel afraid? How often do you feel like, why me? How often do you feel like, and you don't have to tell anybody this, that I'm not good enough and I'm trying to show everybody how good I am. I'm trying to be seen, heard, loved. Look out for judgment. Are you being judgmental of the people around you? When you look at your social media, you're in the social media world. Are you judging and criticizing and say that's bullshit? Are you envious? Those are all states that the machine is not running on optimal. Be on the lookout for those. Be on the lookout for trying to fulfill yourself with things and the constant search for things. And things can be a lot of different things. But I would double down and invest in all aspects, not just double down on your work and your professional life, but double down on working on friendships, double down on serving whatever communities you want to serve. But most importantly is invest in yourself and participate in your own rescue. Because no one's coming to save you. And none of that shit is going to save you. You have to save you. You have to get, just like going to the gym. That works out your heart, works out your muscles, it helps you live a long time. But why do you want to live a long time if you're going to be fucking miserable? If you're not going to be happy, if you're not going to be fulfilled, if you're not going to be given to others. So by the way you feel, the way you think, and start getting aware of those things. Start getting quiet with yourself and saying, why am I angry? Why am I scared? Why am I looking at my buddy and seeing his hot girl and, his Mercedes at 24 and I'm still driving a Nissan, I live with my parents? That's all stuff, man. You're struggling from the same shit. I promise you.
Yeah.
And that's a piece. And when he gets that, it goes away quickly. I'm telling you. And so you've got to, you're one stew. Your emotional, mental, physical, it's all that. And you have to invest in all phases and take the courage to take action, to just be content with who you are and constantly sharpen that pencil to be better than you were yesterday. That's what I would recommend.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I like what you said about participating in your own rescue.
Totally.
Because,
no one's coming to save you, man. There's no magic pill.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, I have one specific friend that I know that he's in like a tough spot right now. As far as, I think he's definitely depressed. He's definitely in a spot where, I've tried to reach out to him. I don't really know how to help, and I think, I hate to say it, but I don't know if he's actively participating in his own rescue in the sense of like, there's a lot of opportunity out there, but it just seems like he's kind of just wallowing in his own stuff.
Yeah, man.
And as an outside person, as a friend, because I know that, as a coach and as someone who helps people get out of that funk, what can somebody listening, if they have a friend that in a similar situation, what would you say is the best way to reach out to them or get, help them to change? Because obviously you can't make them change. But I mean, I care about the guy. He's been one of my friends since I was young.
So a person that's that deep down, and we all have varying degrees of this. And by the way, 2 out of every 3 people suffer from insecurity. I mean, massive insecurity, massive worthiness, massive why me, all of it. So that's 2 out of every 3. So whoever's listening to this, if you're in a room of 10 people, look around. And you're probably one of them too. But we all have our own stuff too. And that's this human experience. It can get so bad. So what I would tell you first about that person is deep down inside, they hate themselves. They do. And they don't feel like they belong. They feel like they're the only person in the room. They feel like and I'm going to use the word, takes one to know one. They feel like they're a freak. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm looking outside, I'm looking at my social media, I'm looking at people smiling, I'm looking at people do things, and why am I alone? Why am I miserable? Why do I hate myself? And that can go on huge cycles of other things to try to numb out of that. There's a lot of things in this world that can, that can do that. The thing that you can't force them to change. You can't force them to stop whatever behaviors they're in. You can't shame them. Be careful of that. Using the word shoulds, do this, do that. You can't be the professor student, and you can't say you're a fuck up, you're a loser. That just takes, they already know that. Whether they admit it or not, they already know it. What I found that works the best is you sit down with them and you talk about you. I'm struggling with this. I've struggled with this. Here's what I'm dealing with. You either A, just listen to them and be there for them because that's an outlet they don't need, or B, you share your story. And so I don't know if that, and you can tell them, I don't know if this resonates for you, but I'm always here to listen because this is the stuff I have struggled with or I'm struggling with right now. And we're struggling with something because it's the human experience. Mm-hmm. Something's always going to come kick you in the face. It's just life. That's what makes it beautiful too, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. But what I would tell you for that particular person is to A, show up for them and just sit with them and listen without being preaching at them, and B, sharing your particular experiences, whatever you think you're going to, but do it in a graceful way. That's what I would recommend to them, because that'll make them feel not alone. Yeah. That'll take away that I'm the only person like this in the world. And the truth is, for whoever's listening and you feel that way, walk outside and 6 out of the 10 people feel the same way. So no, you're not alone. And no.
But it's like a taboo kind of thing. No one wants to go out and say like, hey guys, I'm feeling super insecure today.
Yeah, right.
I feel like a piece of shit. And I feel like no one loves me.
Everybody does in certain ways, right? We all do. But knowing you're not alone, man, and knowing the easy way out, I mean, we don't know. We all have our beliefs and what we think happens. It doesn't matter if you're a Buddhist, a Christian, or we don't really know. But what we do know is we have what we have here. Mm-hmm. And we can choose to participate in our own rescue and make it as best as possible, or we can choose to wallow and make it the most miserable experience on earth.
That's one
thing.
Read
Man's Search for Meaning, too. If
Man's Search for Meaning. Who's that by?
It's Viktor Frankl, and he was a Jewish psychologist who lived 4 years in Auschwitz.
Wow.
You think you got it bad?
Yep.
But he's able to take a psychologist's professional mindset, his personal mindset, what he experienced, and the power of choice, and the power of being able to choose, and how you choose even when death is imminent, how you choose in that moment, either dignity or not dignity. It's a masterful piece of work. Wow. The second part of the book, when he gets kind of technical, gets a little psychology, but the first 60% of it, reading and investing in yourself and reading books where people have gone through some serious shit, or been where you're at, that'll help too.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's one thing that like I said earlier, Jordan Peterson, one thing he talks about is crafting in your mind your own personal hell and your own personal heaven. Yeah. And there's a reason why, like in all religious texts, pretty much universally, there's some sort of version of heaven and some sort of version of hell, because we all want to imagine that eventually you're just going to live with no, who knows if it's eternal or not, but there's you're eventually going to live with no struggles. Everything's going to be hunky dory, but obviously a lot of that breaks down in questioning what it is and what it isn't. But I think it's important, and I think that's a reason why it's permeated through the ages and ages and ages, and why it's like a part of, I would say 99% of culture is this idea of like a heaven and a hell. Yep. And the reason why we strive to do things the way we do. But but there's definitely places where you can create hell on earth, and like you said, with Auschwitz, man. And with living inside your own head.
It could be in your own brain.
Yep, literally.
Yeah,
and it is crazy, and not to get too out there, but
I love getting out there, man. That's what I do, brother.
Yeah, but like your brain is all that you really know. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if have you ever been in a sensory deprivation tank?
No,
those float tanks?
No, but
You get the
done
concept.
similar things, yes.
Gotcha. So like one of the things that really fascinated me about the idea of that was like you get in there, and I've talked about this on the show before, where you get into these float tanks, and basically the idea is that it's supposed to deprive you of your senses. It's completely dark, so you can't see. It's completely airtight, so you don't hear anything from the outside. The water is the exact same temperature as your skin, so you can't feel where the water ends and where the air begins, kind of. And so then at the end of the day, you have to kind of like boil it down. Well, am I my body? Am I my stuff? Am I my own brain? And so the world is really just how you perceive it. Totally. And like you said, whether you believe in some sort of universal energy that connects us all or not, living in your own head, you can create your own hell, because life is how you perceive it. If you perceive things as, how you perceive it, that's your personal reality. It doesn't matter how other people look at it. That's your personal reality. And it's really hard to change that.
Totally, man. I related to that. I went on this year. Remember I told you I do things that put me way out of my comfort zone. I went on this 11-day vision quest. And it's a rite of passage based in indigenous, tribal philosophies from Africa and Native Americans.
Wow.
4.5 days of that vision quest, rite of passage, it's considered a death ceremony. There's no electronics, there's no books, there's no housing, there's no people, and it's you, nature, silence, a pen and paper. You don't have food for 4.5 days. You don't have people for 4.5 days. You're alone for 4.5 days, and you got nothing but you in nature, in your raw essence. You're not eating. You have no tent. You're just out. You're in a death ceremony.
Wow.
And
where
so
was this?
This was in the North Carolina mountains.
Whoa.
And you don't see humans for 4.5 days. You don't have any
hoping it was the
sensory.
summertime. So
It actually was miserable because I don't know if you remember when we had all that rain here for like 2 solid weeks. That's when it was. And so we just got pelted. So what was good, because it would get to 70s during the day and 30s at night, they did allow a tarp because they didn't want you to have hypothermia.
Yeah, exactly.
But when it wasn't raining, you weren't under the tarp. But between the bugs, the snakes, the animals, the mountains, there's nothing to go turn on or call or look down at. There's no book to read. There's no food to eat. It's you and you.
Wow.
And it becomes you and either your demons or you and whatever you believe.
Wow.
For 4.5 days. It'd change your life, man.
That's crazy. Because if you think about it, there's no other time when you're alive that you've ever been completely alone for 4 whole days. And not only that, no food, no shelter, no nothing. What were you allowed to wear?
You can wear whatever you want. You can bring a pack in. And some people chose to do it without water. But they were more, they've done it before. I didn't do no water.
That's rough.
Because that's 2.5 days from.
What was your preparation like for that? Just out of curiosity.
So this particular group, Rites of Passage Council, which now I'm on the board of. It's kind of crazy. They do a lot. There's like 6 months to a year of preparation.
Wow.
And then they take you through an indigenous death ceremony for 3 or 4 days before you even go out there. The intent is pieces of you die out there. And it's usually, you're either looking for a vision or you're looking at something deep. And I went out there to look at something deep. I had some fears that I wanted to just look at in the face.
Wow.
And they came hard.
Yeah.
Hard. But it's amazing what happens to you from the nature's part of it, to where this is probably TMI. The first day you're worried about not eating, you're worried about exposure, the bugs, spiders, and snakes are coming by you, and you're like, what the hell? You're scared of that. By day 4, you're like talking to them. Like you got 4 spiders on you and you're like naming them. You're walking around naked. I mean, you're not even, that stuff goes away, even in 4 days. Like whatever fear you have of nature and exposure, it goes away. I mean, it's like you're sitting up at night. You don't even care if a deer or bear comes by. You're just like, what's up? What's up? All that goes away, but your internal stuff comes at you hard.
Oh, yeah.
So the first day is like, oh my God, there's an animal. Or oh my God. I mean, because the bugs are constantly all over you. Yeah, all over you.
It is pretty absurd how we've removed ourselves from nature so much.
Yeah.
Like if a bug comes in our house, we freak out.
Yeah. This giant spider, you don't realize how many ants and spiders are out in the woods. I mean, by the gazillions. And you're in their home. Mm-hmm. You know, and the squirrels end up starting to watch you, and the birds start to watch you because they have their, you know, their territory, right? And they're like, what is this dude doing?
Yeah, because normally a human just passes by. They might see one every once in a while, but whatever.
And this is kind of in a remote place, too, so not a lot of humans come by there. But, you know, I would flip out at first when a spider, and then eventually, you know, you're just like, all right, what's up, man? Yeah. And they're just,
what's up, Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, it's you again. Yeah. I remember you from yesterday.
Yeah. And so it's really, that part of it goes away.
That's cool.
And the food thing goes away after a few days. But then you're left with silence in your thoughts.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I'm sure coming back to reality, you appreciate everything more. Like, 100%. Oh my gosh, the 100%. Warmth of my home. You know, and that's, you know, because happiness doesn't exist in a vacuum. You have to have the lows to appreciate the highs. You got to have the highs to appreciate the lows, all that kind of stuff. And I think people need to get out there and do stuff like that more.
Totally.
Because we're all animals. People like to pretend that we're not animals. You know, people want to put on makeup and pretend we're these perfect human beings. We wear fancy clothes and drive these amazing machines all around the street. But at the end of the day, we're just freaking animals.
When I got back after 11 days, I went straight in, and I did not need to do this, straight into this big entrepreneurial conference that was here in Atlanta. And I could literally see through every person there.
Whoa.
I'm not like see through them, like see their struggles, because, you know, like you said, that we've all got our watches, our clothes, whatever mask we're wearing. And I could see right down deep into their heart and souls. And it was brutal on me for 3 or 4 days. Brutal. And I've already got a sixth sense to where I can read people really, really well, especially what they're going through, just because of my life experiences. But that was the most level up I've ever been.
Wow.
And it was, I went too quick into society, way back in too quick. And it almost hurt me in certain ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Traveling kind of does that in a certain way too.
Always put you present.
Yeah. Because when you remove yourself from your environment where you're comfortable, and then you start to embed yourself in something else, that culture shock. That's what it kind of was for you too. It's like the culture shock of being in nature. Yeah. The culture of the animals and the
totally. And traveling's a good thing because it makes you present. It makes you like a little kid again. Watch a little kid around a water fountain, or just like a 2-year-old run around. Everything, the world is new to them.
Yes.
And that's such. What if we could do that? I don't think what if. We can do that. You and I could walk out in this backyard right now, and we're in so you guys know, we're in downtown Atlanta. And we could just notice everything around us. And if you looked at it in awe for truly what it was, that's when you know you're living life.
Yeah.
You're not constantly thinking about the next thing. You're just here.
I think that's why people gravitate towards like psychedelic drugs too.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because it makes you look at normal stuff in like a new way. Like, whoa, the chair is moving, dude. But like if you actually, my friend kind of explained this to me. It kind of blew my mind one time. He's like, dude, imagine if you were blind and then you just were able to see, you would be tripping balls. Like that's basically what it would be. Totally. You would be freaking out at just how things are. Yeah. But you know, everyone, that's just how senses work. You get used to what you're used to. Yeah. But if you stare at the grass and see how every blade is moving, that's pretty trippy. Like you're like, whoa. It's totally each present. Little blade, is it alive? Is it moving because of the wind? You know, oh, there's an ant. Like, and so we take stuff like that for granted all the time.
And so I've read a lot into that, whether it's the hallucinogens or ayahuasca or whatever the different the different things that can take you to marijuana in certain ways can get you there sometimes depending.
Heroic dose.
I've read recently though, especially from the great sages out in the East and indigenous societies and some even Western, that if you constantly work on yourself with meditation, with self-work, emotional, that you can eventually, through touch or sensory, get yourself to that level.
Organically.
And I don't mean to sound like blasphemous, but I do believe Mahatma Gandhi, Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus were on a different level in so many different ways. And they were speaking so many different truths, and they were so in tune with themselves and universal intelligence and humans, and they were in a complete place of servitude and trying to give it to the world, I believe they could go into those states without really at the human level. Yeah. And I don't mean to call them humans because people believe they were something else.
Ascended,
and I'm not
whatever
here to judge whatever.
Yeah.
But they truly were gods on earth. They really were.
Yeah.
Because they could get to those states that we're talking about. And they were so in tune with who they were and serving others and changing humanity for the better. Yeah. And all of them had incredible beginnings. Like, we like to concentrate on the divinity. I'm a study of this stuff. Can you tell I study this?
I love it.
Yeah. We concentrate on the divinity part of it, which was their enlightenment, for lack of a better word. But we don't see the walking out into the desert and choosing to walk away from huge, important lives, like in the Buddha and Muhammad. It's just incredible. If we look at that, what it took them to get there. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty cool.
Exactly.
I'm going way.
No, I love it.
I'm going way out there right now, brother. But yeah, so whatever it might be, can get you there, but can't sustain it. I think we can do that on our own.
Because also, a lot of those chemicals in those drugs are actually present in our own bodies in some way. Like this DMT, we've actually been able to prove that in the pineal gland, it's created in there. So like, I forget who said it. I don't want to quote anybody, but it was something like, we are all inside of our own bodies in possession of an illegal amount of psychedelic drugs.
Right.
Like they can get you in prison for life. And,
that's a whole different issue.
There's exactly.
That's a whole nother problem.
We don't need to dive into that.
That's a whole other problem, actually.
Yep, exactly. And that ties in, I'm sure, with what you experienced early on with prison and people in there. But anyways, one thing I had heard is there's a certain type of yoga. I forget what it's called, but people say that this certain style or
tantric.
Yeah, like tantric yoga or something, where they can, once they get into it, they achieve like psychedelic states and all this kind of stuff.
Apparently, Sting, who's maybe even in his 70 now, if you look at Sting, he looks 50.
Yeah.
Or maybe in 40s. But apparently, he practices certain parts of meditation, yoga, and tantric, which takes you, and people associate that with sex, but it's a whole way of being and a whole way of living, and you can get completely in tune with your emotions and body, from when you eat to when you work to when you write music to when you have sex.
Yeah,
it's a whole different way of being.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
Very cool.
It takes a lot of work though, man. I know we're going today.
Dude, we went down a good rabbit hole there. I was going to say, we've gone for like an hour and 15. It's been pretty solid. I love long podcasts. I'm going to be real. I love long podcasts. Yeah. But I was going to say, if there's anything, that, like you said, living your truth, being in tune with who you are, what kind of, I guess, even for me personally, I'm still trying to figure that out. I think we're all still trying to figure that out.
So is Tony Robbins.
Yeah. And you can actually see, it's cool because people like that have just produced volumes and volumes of content, you can see his evolution over time.
Totally.
Which is amazing.
He started on infomercials.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I think he got associated with being a little bit cheesy and people not really believing in his thing.
He's speaking truth though, man.
Yeah. Totally. But it's kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with like Ty Lopez.
Yeah.
Like people in the beginning were like, oh, this dude's a fraud, he's a fake, his house is rented, his Lamborghinis are rented. Well, he's still got them. He's still living in the house. Even if his house is rented, he's still living in that house. It's not fake if he lives it every day.
3 things on that. You don't know him.
Exactly.
That's envy, and that's judgment. Mm-hmm. So if you look at that guy, and here's how you know. Thoughts. Here's how you know that do I need to do some work on me, because that dude doesn't have anything to do with you. You don't know him. Mm-hmm. You don't know his trials. You don't know his struggles. He has snot in his nose and he uses the bathroom just like the rest of us, just like the prettiest people on earth, and he will die. But you don't know him. He could be the greatest person you ever know, and we don't know how many people he serves. I don't know who that particular person is. I hear his name a lot.
Yeah.
But we don't know that person, and the rest of it's judgment and envy.
Yep.
Because you don't feel good enough.
Yep.
That's how you know I got to do some work.
Yeah.
Trust me, it takes one to know one.
Yeah. And I think also a lot of that boils down into people thinking of like the zero-sum game, where you got to have losers to have winners. And of course, in every scenario, there's always going to be a winner, always going to be a loser in some way. But people that think, okay, this guy is rich because he stomped on the backs of all these other people or whatever. And it's just like I guess a fear-based mentality and I can't think of the right word, but you
it's
get
a scarcity and fear.
Scarcity mentality. Yeah.
It's fear, scarcity, and there's insecurities and worthiness in both of those.
Yeah.
But fear and scarcity are killers.
For sure.
And if you live in that, if that's your norm, we all have it. But if it's your norm, that's where go back to that dogmatic statement I said earlier. If that's your norm, unless you do something about that, and no one can do it for you. There isn't a hot girl or hot guy, there isn't a job, there isn't a watch, and there isn't a club that's going to give that to you. Because it's always going to be in you. You got to work on that. I promise. 100%. I've been in the room with 3 billionaires in my life. They were the most alone people I've ever met.
Wow.
Yeah. I used to, back in a former life, I was around very wealthy people.
It's crazy, man. I mean, and that's a level that I think I listened to a podcast with, do you know who Dan Bilzerian is? He's this character on Instagram who's got the guns and he's jacked and he's always got a million hot girls.
Yeah, he's an actor or a poker player.
Yeah, he's a poker player. Now he's just kind of this like public figure that's just kind of just known for being this status symbol. And I listened to a podcast with him and he was actually quite insightful. I thought he was going to be an idiot. I thought I just assumed I just assumed that he was going to be just kind of this dumb guy that, guns, hot girls, boats.
Well, you got to have, and I don't want to, this is going to get out there. I guess the whole thing we've been talking about, it's real though. Whether he sustains that, I don't know him. Mm-hmm. But I'm open to everyone. I mean, I got ye who lives in glass don't throw stones.
Exactly.
But if it's sustained, you don't do that by not being in tune in a lot of different ways. That doesn't mean he's probably not working on things or looking into things and whatever his jam or insecurities are. But you can't sustain success by hating yourself, being eat up with fear, being eat up with scarcity and insecurity. On some level, he believes in himself and what he brings to the game. Yeah. And there's probably a level of intelligence and charisma and emotional stability within that particular person too.
Yeah, because like you said, with the envy and all this stuff, you're just like, he got lucky. It's dad's money. He's an idiot. He's poker player.
It's easy to blow dad's money though.
Yeah.
It's easy to blow it because it's not yours.
Yep.
But if you can take it and go to the next level, Ted Turner, I'm not trying to get political. Trump grew up very wealthy, but he took it to
small
another
investment
level.
of $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, but Ted Turner did it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Dan did it. I don't know. But being mad at people for how they were born, I was born in a blue collar society, humble. But you can't judge people for how they were born and who their family is. They didn't get to choose that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can either make something of it. And Sarah Blakely, who's in town, I believe she's a billionaire. If she's not, she's close. Mm-hmm. Founder of Spanx, and her husband's a really motivational, inspiring people too.
Yeah.
But she said something recently that I was like, yeah, that's so damn true. Money, if you're an asshole, it'll just really make you a bigger asshole. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, people's lot in life and how they were born, that's why we love the rags to riches stories.
Yep.
Because it is harder. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean if someone was born rich and then they go do amazing things, I'm just saying Buddha was a prince. Mm-hmm. And then he went the other way into complete humility and humbling and stayed out of politics, stayed out of the financial, and just was there to inspire.
Yeah. I saw
whatever your thing is.
Yeah.
Right?
I saw a post by Will Smith recently. He was talking about the difference between responsibility and fault.
Yeah.
And he was saying, if you're born into poverty or whatever, that's not your fault.
Correct.
But it is damn sure your responsibility to get yourself out of there.
Beautiful.
And I was like, damn, that was some beautiful bombs right there.
Well said.
And I was
well said.
That stuck with me, man.
Well said.
Because, obviously you can't control it. Obviously you can blame. You can play the blame game all day long. But the person who takes what they've got and elevates it to that next level, that's where you really got to say kudos to you, because you've done something that most people wouldn't be able to do, or whatever most people strive for.
Blame and entitlement are killers.
Yep.
And entitlement can be on both sides of the fence, by the way. If you really, that can be a 2-hour conversation on its own. But blame is that's when you're scared. That's when you're insecure. And that's when all that stuff we've been talking about. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man.
Well, cool, man. Well, I wanted to kind of wrap things up, but
yeah, brother.
I know that you're coming out with the book, or it's written already. It's almost out.
Well, it's probably per the publishing contract. It has to come out like March or April. Well, we're coming on March, April or May of this year per the contract that we've got with the publisher. It's been picked up by a publisher.
Nice.
It will be coming out Q2 of this year if people go in quarterlies. That's like what I just said. April, May, that's my former.
Exactly. That's just how you think.
They speak those words in the publishing world too, and I speak that world because of speaking in other things. But yeah, we have a book coming out. My wife and I hope to write a book sooner or later called The 5 Marriages. It's really one marriage, but it's to give people hope. It's easy to quit a relationship. It's easy to quit a family. It's easy to quit a friendship, and maybe through our trials, tribulations, and tools and what we've learned, maybe give people hope to the grass isn't always greener. So that's coming soon. But Pawn to King is the name of the book. It's the working title right now.
I like that.
Yeah.
Like you said, everyone loves the rags to riches story.
It's called From Pawn to King, but it's not what people think. It's from the pawn who became a king, and he was truly a pawn in a system. To back down, to then become a true king or queen in life.
Wow.
To really be the master of your own life. That's what the book's about.
That's cool. There's so many metaphors you can use with that too.
Yeah, that's
because really the true king could be the player of the game, not the piece.
Correct.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. So we'll be on the lookout for your book.
Sweet.
If people want to get in touch with you or connect with you or hire you or whatever, where can they find you? All that kind of stuff.
TommyBreedlove.com is going to be the easiest. I would say Choose Goodness, but that's so much bigger now. I would say TommyBreedlove.com. There's a sign-up sheet on the front page. I'm also at TommyBreedlove.com, if you can remember that. Yeah, it's a real name. So you can reach out to me directly at TommyBreedlove.com. Or if you go on, you can actually, if you go to TommyBreedlove.com, if you sign up, you will get my daily how I live my life. And it's in 4 quadrants. And I also have a book list. And you asked me, how do you achieve meaning in life? Those 3 they're for free for you to have. And so if you sign up through the website, TommyBreedlove, and it's on the front page, you just go to the bottom. But you can also email to me directly at TommyBreedlove.com.
Very cool.
And I always will speak to you. It might take me a little bit from scheduling, but I will get to you. But there will be someone to vet you. I'm just not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be sold to, and I'm very discerning. I'll meet with anyone, anywhere. I really want to know their intentions first.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. If they just want to like emotionally vomit on me, I'm all in. I'm all in. But if you're trying to get something, I'm not in. I don't want to hear about your great social media.
You got to bring value to the table.
Yeah. I want to hear about you. I want to know who you are.
That's awesome.
I'm here for you if you want that.
Very cool.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
I'm all in if you just want to talk.
I love it, man. That's awesome. Any other closing message or any words of parting wisdom? I feel like we covered a ton of stuff. So.
Yeah, I would close with this, man. I think we're truly only born with 2 gifts. It's the gift of life and the gift of death. Because the only thing that we have in common is that we're all going to die. 100%. It's what unites every single living cell on this earth, from the oceans to the grass to us as humans. And if we know we have a very limited number of days and spins around the sun, why can't we use that as a gift and truly live life to our fullest in every way possible? And remember that in every decision we make. So I think that I would close with that.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, brother.
I love it. Well, dude, thanks for being on the show. And
sweet, man.
We'll talk to you later, everybody.
Awesome. Be well, y'all.
Boom. There you have it, folks. Another amazing episode in the tank. I want to thank Tommy again for being on the show, spending his time with me. I had an amazing time on this one. Make sure you go check out TommyBreedlove.com to get those resources that he just mentioned. Pretty cool stuff there. But how you guys feeling? You guys inspired? I know I am, that's for sure. But you made it to the end. That's a pretty strong indicator to me that you enjoyed this episode, which gets me fired up. That's really that I'm really stoked by that. But it also tells me that you would probably also enjoy quite a few of my other episodes. And I've got a couple recommendations for you. So number one episode I can recommend is episode 47 called Progress, Not Perfection with my friend Richard Corbett. Richard is one interesting dude. He's a super talented artist. He's a bodybuilding and fitness freak. He's a college dropout, and he's working through a massive injury that left him wheelchair bound. But because he's on this obsessive quest of becoming the best version of himself, he is breaking down those physical barriers and mental barriers day after day. And I think anyone who's a fan of my show is going to love that episode, but especially if you liked what Tommy was talking about, taking control of your body and your life and everything. I think you're really going to love that. So that was episode 47 with Richard Corbett. Go check it out. Another episode I think you'd really enjoy would be episode 56 with George Yu. George is a really successful guy who's done a lot of interesting things, but namely, he's the founder of a company called Wind Pouch. And you might have seen them before. There's like those little inflatable hammock couch things. But if you haven't, you can Google them. But anyways, George was actually asked to come on Shark Tank, and he got chosen by Mark Cuban for 20% of his company for $500,000. So I think it's safe to say that George is doing pretty big things. He told me all about his experience at Shark Tank and all kinds of other fun stuff as well. So go check that out. Again, that was episode 56 with George Yu. All right, episode 76 is coming up with Chayton Maycott. And Chayton's an entrepreneur and founder of a few businesses, but his current projects include a physical product called EcoClaw. He's got a digital marketing agency called Results Magnet, and he also has Intuitive Earnings, which helps people navigate some of the trickiest segments in investing today, especially including cryptocurrency. And Chayton and I talked about his story, lots of psychological stuff in business and life, and I just had an awesome time chatting with him. So if you're into business and the psychology behind it, I would definitely check it out. That episode will be coming out later this week, so stay tuned. Keep it locked. All right. If you want to support the show, which I know you do because you love this show, but if you haven't already, please go to iTunes and rate the podcast 5 stars. That helps me out a lot, because iTunes is the number one place where people discover podcasts. And so if I have a higher rating in there, I'll get discovered by more people. That's pretty exciting to me, right? Get the message out. But also, another way that you can help is just by simply sharing this with a friend. Word of mouth is the most powerful way of advertising. So if your friends are talking about podcasts, like, oh yeah, what podcast do you listen to? Be like, yeah. Oh yeah, guys, you should check out the Andrew Deitch podcast. It's pretty good. But only do that if you actually like the podcast. If you don't like the podcast, then don't recommend it. But if you do, I would love it if you recommend it. Anyways, if you want to follow me on social media, go to my website, andrewdeitch.com. That has all the links to all my social media handles and accounts and everything. But anyways, thanks for listening, guys. If you are still listening, I know you're a true fan, and I can't wait to share the exciting news that I will be able to release very soon about the first sponsor of the podcast. Getting everything squared away now, but I'm really excited for that. Jeez. Wow, that was a big yawn. I was trying to fight it. I couldn't fight it. All right. Well, I think that's a good way to close this out. Thank you again for listening, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Like you got 4 spiders on you and you're like naming them. You're walking around naked. You don't even care if a deer or bear comes by. You're just like, what's up?